All right, this is Leon Olguin with the Songwriter's Mentor, and this is Song Dissection, Episode 1. Now, the word dissection comes from the Latin meaning cut to pieces. Here's the actual definition: the dismembering of the body of a deceased animal or plant to study its anatomical structure. That sounds a little bit pretty intense for a songwriting video, but what we're really going to be doing here in the Song Dissection series, we're going to take a famous song and analyze it, and we're going to dissect it, take it apart, and look at the three main components that go into making up a great song. Those three components are, number one, the melody. Obviously, a song has to have a great melody or it's not going to be very memorable. People aren't going to be singing it when they're walking around the house and so on. And then we're going to look at the chords, the accompaniment. Now, in reality, you only need a melody and a lyric to have a song. So if you're walking around the house singing a song to yourself, you're probably not carrying around a guitar and playing chords. You're not dragging your piano around the house. You're just singing melody and lyrics, and that's a song. But the chords and the accompaniment can be very important as well. They can help set the mood. They can complement the melody and the lyric. So we're going to look at the chords, the accompaniment, the chord progression, if you like. Now, we're not going to get too much into the production aspects of the song. If this is a song, if I look at a song that's been recorded, we're not going to look too much about, oh, how did they mix that and what instruments did they use? That's very important. That goes into the arrangement. And that's a subject for an entirely different series. But right now, we're just going to look at the three main components that go into making a great song: the lyric, the melody, and the chords. But we're going to start with the melody and work our way through. Now, the song that we're going to do today is called Are You Lonesome Tonight? And those of you who know this tune know that it was a big hit for Elvis Presley. And what I'd like to do, excuse me, I'd like to play it for you. I'm not going to sing it because I'm not Elvis, but you'll recognize it. There it is. And what you were looking at is the lead sheet for the song. A lead sheet, for those of you who are not familiar with the term, is just basically the music notation of the song, just the melody. There's no accompaniment written out. Everything I was playing was basically ad-lib based on the chords. So you've got the melody, you've got the lyric, you've got the chords. Those are the three things that go into making up a lead sheet. So I was looking at this lead sheet from a legal fake book. They call it a fake book because you can kind of fake the accompaniment as you go. Let's take a look at this melody. Now, one of the things a melody has to be, and I'll discuss this more in depth in some other videos, it has to be memorable. It has to be singable. And one of the marks of a great melody is that you can tell immediately, not even hearing the words, what song it is just from the first few notes. So if you hear this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 notes. You remember an old TV show called Name That Tune? And people would say, I can name that tune in 5 notes. 4 notes, I can name it in 3 or 2. Of course, they were giving clues as to what song it was as they went along. So if they said, I can name that tune in 1 note, and just went, well, they knew what song it was, perhaps based on the clues that were given. But if not, they had to be able to tell what song it was based on the first few notes of the melody. So if I played this, that's 3 notes. And a lot of people would go, oh, you're playing. Whoops. Well, I was trying to play yesterday. There we go. I'm still thinking about Are You Lonesome Tonight? Anyway, it starts with that little phrase, the melody, and so immediately it's something memorable. Not only does it have the notes, but there's a rhythmic element to that melody as well. It starts out with 2/8 notes, pickup notes. They come on beat 3, 3 and 1, and 2 and 3 and 1. So you have this quarter note, dotted quarter note, eighth note pattern. And then it stops for a second, gives you a chance to breathe, and then it repeats the same rhythm, but the notes are slightly different. So we have this descending pattern going on. It starts up here, then it comes down here. And then it continues again with the same pattern, but now slightly altered. Instead of the quarter note, dotted quarter note, eighth note pattern, it's straight quarter notes. And it's gone down one more step. So it turns it around for you. Now you've got 3 quarter notes, and then you've got the quarter note, dotted note, eighth note, I can't even say it. And we end up on this A. And this is the pause. This is the part where you've made a statement. When you're talking to somebody and you're trying to speak in complete sentences, you always pause at the end of a sentence, like I did just there. You don't keep running them together. So this melody speaks out a phrase, repeating pattern going down. And now it stops for a second, lets you think about what you just heard, ponder the lyrics a little bit, and now in the next line, we have that same pattern, but some different notes. That's the same notes right there. But as later on, you're going to see there's a different chord underneath. And that same kind of descending thing where it's the same pattern, but it gets a little bit lower, and then we have something completely different. We start going up the scale, D, E, F, G, A, and then C, B, G, and then we come to rest on this E. We're in the key of C, by the way. And so that's the answering sentence or the answering phrase. Now we have something completely different. We find a note here, this B flat. We have not encountered this note before, and this tells us we're going somewhere different now. So there's that phrase, and then it repeats a similar phrase, but now we're going up a little higher. In fact, it's an exact replica, but then it goes down farther. So we have 2 phrases that are very similar, almost identical, but one is a step higher than the other. And it's like it's going higher now. Instead of coming down like it was before at the beginning, it's going up each time. Now we repeat. That's very familiar. We've heard that before. But now we have a different thing coming up. We reach what you might want to call the climax of this melody. We haven't never been this high before. That's the high note. And then we have the resolution. It's not a terribly complex melody, but there's certain techniques that the writer uses to make it memorable. You have these repeating rhythmic things, da-da-dee, da-da-dum. And you also have it ascending at the beginning, or excuse me, it's descending, I should say. It goes to that note, then it goes, and then it goes, and then it does the same thing. And then you have a little scale. And then we have something completely different. As you can see, I mean, it just leads you on, and then you kind of know where it's going to go, and it finally reaches the end. Well, let's take a look at the chord progression too. We're in the key of C. So very often when you're in a particular key, and there are a lot of songs that are exceptions to this rule, but this one follows it exactly. The first chord is going to be the 1 chord, the tonic, the C major chord in the key of C. Now notice here we have a note in the melody that's not part of the C major chord. And so this creates a little bit of tension, but you could also say, hey, this creates a C major 7 chord. So in the lead sheet, they could have gotten fancy and put C major 7 there. And then here, we have an A laid on top of the C chord. You could also call that a C6 if you like. This lead sheet, though, for the purposes of readability and simplicity, just keeps it at C the whole way. Now it jumps down to A7. And when you hit a chord like A7, it naturally leads you to D. Now it could have gone to D, but that sounds a little weird. So we go to D minor. A lot of times it's just, what does sound good there? Now that sounds kind of funny. So, and then this lead sheet gets fancy and puts another A7 in there. And then from the D minor, it naturally leads to G7. And notice the melody creates a little bit of a tension there with that C, which is not part of the chord. And then it resolves. Now here you've got an A on top of the G7 chord. You could also call that a G9. And then they throw in a D minor, and then back to the G7, and it comes back home to C. So what you have in this chord progression, think of C as home. That's home. And then we jump away from home and we wind up a little bit farther off where we're not at home anymore. And we start leading you back home again. Because you see, G7, that's the dominant chord. That's the dominant in C major. It always wants to take you back home. But to create more tension, it hangs on to that G7 chord for a while. Just like in the first line, it hung on to the C chord until it reached the A7. Here, it hangs on to the G7. Then it takes a little detour. But once again, that D minor wants you to go back to G7. And then finally, we have release of the tension. We're back home again. But now we go a different direction. We have C7. And that's going to naturally lead us to F. And then we jump even farther away from home. But D7 leads us to G7. If you're looking at the lead sheet, it gets a little fancy. They put an F sharp 7 in there. Yeah, they didn't really need to have that, but it sounds pretty cool. Then it goes back to C again. And now we're back at the beginning. But now we jump to that D7 again. And then we follow it to G7. And then a F major, F minor, C. Now I could have gone into a great deal more detail explaining how these chords work together, but that's something that you can learn at the Songwriter's Mentor. Let's take a look at the lyric for just a moment. The writer starts out asking questions. So it's a great way to start a lyric. And this song, of course, is being sung to someone. This is not an I, me. I mean, he's singing about himself in a sense, but he's actually, you got to picture the singer singing this to someone. Now, the person may not actually be in the room with them, but you can just picture Elvis, if you like. I don't know. I can't remember what movie this was in, if it was in one of his movies. I've not seen many of Elvis's movies, I'm afraid. But I kind of picture him sitting alone in a room or sitting outdoors on a rock somewhere, singing this song, and the person's not right there with him, but he's singing it to her. Or if you're a girl, if you're a woman, you're singing it to a guy. And you start by asking questions. Are you lonesome tonight? Do you miss me tonight? Are you sorry we drifted apart? And then he stops asking questions. Well, still asking more questions, I should say. Does your memory stray to a bright, sunny day when I kissed you and called you sweetheart? A lot of questions in there. In fact, this whole lyric is a series of questions, but at the same time that he's asking questions, he's conjuring up these images. Are you lonely? Do you miss me? Are you sorry? Does your memory stray? And then you picture this bright sunny day. Maybe they're sitting on a hillside somewhere enjoying a beautiful picnic, and he kisses her and says, oh, you're my sweetheart. Oh, that's wonderful. Is she thinking about that? And then suddenly we're back inside. More questions. Do the chairs in your parlor seem empty and bare? That's a very vivid image there of somebody sitting alone in a room. There's empty chairs there. And at one point, there was somebody that person loved sitting in one of those chairs. They were together. Another question. Do you gaze at your doorstep and picture me there? Another vivid image. Open the door. There's nobody there, but you're picturing that person that you loved. Am I still there? Am I in your doorstep? Am I at your doorstep? More questions. Is your heart filled with pain? And then here comes the climactic question. He's asked all these questions leading up to this high point in the lyric. Not only in the lyric, but the melody reaches a high point as well. This is masterful songwriting. Even though this is a very simple song, it's masterful in it's the way it builds to this climactic part. Shall I come back again? That's the big question. Every question that the writer or the singer has been asking up to this point, he's leading to this big question. Shall I come back again? And then goes back and repeats his first question. Tell me, dear, are you lonesome tonight? So in one respect, this is a simple lyric, but in another respect, it is a masterfully constructed lyric that continually builds by asking a series of questions leading up to the climactic question. And you can and the melody sounds like it's really pleading at that point. And then tell me, dear, are you lonesome tonight? Now, of course, Elvis's recording, he has a whole second verse there, I think, or some kind of recitation that he gives while the melody's playing. The guys are in the background going, ooh. I'm not even going to try to sing that. And then it comes back and he asks the big question again. Is your heart filled with pain? Shall I come back again? Again, whatever. Anyway, that's a song dissection. And the reason I'm doing this is these are techniques that you learn by taking these songs apart, these great memorable tunes, great memorable songs. And now you can apply these principles to your own songwriting. Make sure that your melodies are memorable. One of the tests of a great melody is that it can stand by itself. No accompaniment, no lyrics, just a very memorable melody. And then make sure that the lyrics are building up and going somewhere. I could talk a lot more about lyric writing, but don't want to have this video become 2 or 3 hours long. And of course, using an effective chord progression that supports that melody and also kind of helps support the lyric as well. So there's a lot of moving parts here, but by taking it apart and seeing how it all fits together, I think it'll be very beneficial for your own songwriting. So We got some other songs that we want to do in this regard, but this is the first one, Are You Lonesome Tonight? So thanks for watching. I invite you to check out the Songwriter's Mentor, where we go into more details about this in learning about the craft of songwriting. So I got the link down there where you can go to the site, go to the contact section, and just say hello. Let me know that you're out there. Also invite you to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with your friends, and especially your songwriting friends. Well, share it with all your friends. I think everybody would have a good time hearing about how these great songs are put together. All right, so thanks for watching.